At the second National Child's Rights CSO Symposium earlier today, children called for a clearly defined child-centered budget. They asked government to allocate at least 10% of the national budget directly to children's needs.
This is how we have allocated the 10%. Education, 3%, children's protection, 4%, and healthcare, 3%.
They noted that the current national budget has no clear figure showing how much money is specifically set aside for children, despite children making up the largest share of Uganda's population. For many of the children at the event, the problem is not just limited funding but also lack of visibility. They said they often feel unheard in decisions that affect them and want their views to count, especially in services designed for them.
True inclusion isn't just about being present. It is about being heard, valued, and respected.
The children listed areas they believe need urgent investment. They want well-trained, experienced teachers, arguing that the new curriculum requires more guidance.
The government is greatly appreciated for its inputs, but we would recommend it to build more government schools and employ qualified teachers in the rural areas, standard education because all students should have equal and fair rights in all areas.
They also called for better infrastructure for learners with disabilities, many of whom still struggle with access and mobility in schools. They spoke strongly against corporal punishments, saying teachers who beat learners should not only be punished but also lose their teaching licenses.
We kindly remind you of your promises of fulfilling implementation of Article 34 of the Uganda Constitution, as well as international, regional and domestic instruments in adopting child-centered approach that realizes our rights, responsibilities and well-being.
Responding to these concerns, a government representative acknowledged that Uganda has no budget line specifically labeled for children.
Actually, the international children's rights to which Uganda is obligated requires that we allocate 10% of the budget to children. It is Uganda that is lagging behind in enforcing that in our budget.
She said that while many government programs benefit children, funding is scattered across ministries and sectors. Education, health and child protection all contain elements that support children, but none are grouped into a single dedicated allocation.
But if they were gathered up, you would find us even beyond 10%, because there are a number of social protection interventions that are being made on vulnerable children, on children at school. Free education is part of the budgets, because how much would the parents be paying if government did not put universal education?
Available figures show that education receives the largest share of funding that can be directly linked to children. In the 2025-26 national budget, education was allocated about 6.97%, down from around 8% the previous year. Child protection, responsible for keeping children safe from violence, abuse and neglect, receives the least financial attention.
Staffing is very bad. Accommodation of office is very bad. They have no transport. They are not facilitated to go to the deeper communities to ensure that to ensure the safety of the children. And so they keep under trees to wait for people who are whistleblowing to bring cases, and by the time they follow up, evidence has been lost.
Analyses show that less than 1% of Uganda's national budget goes to direct child protection programs, with past allocations falling as low as 0.01 to 0.02%. The health sector also receives funding, but budget documents do not indicate how much is specifically targeted at children. Uganda typically allocates 4 to 5% of its national budget to health, but this is not separated into adult and child lines. Similarly, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development directs only 15 to 20% of its own ministry budget to youth and children-related functions. Because it is a relatively small ministry in terms of funding, the final amount reaching children remains limited. International agreements such as the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child require governments to use the maximum available resources to ensure children's rights are met. The guidance stresses proper budgeting, non-discrimination, and including children in decisions that affect them, but it does not recommend a specific percentage. Lydia Felly Akullu, NTV Tonight.